Hello, everybody. Welcome back once again to another edition of Movie Battleground. My name is Aaron Knoll, and tonight we are back for another exciting matchup here as we have two guys who, in the past, based off their performances, you might not believe that the record is what it is, but they are here looking for that second win. We have, of course, everybody's, I believe he prefers the number 38th favorite dad, Papa Jacob West is here. He is one win, two defeats, coming in fresh off of a knockout victory. Meanwhile, he is going up against Austin Pez Howell, who, despite all of the fervor that he came in with, and I would say arguably three very solid performances, he found himself on the losing end of two of those matches, one to the current champion in Henry Sanchez, and the other to one of the current number one contenders in Chad Webb. So he hasn't been losing to slouches, but needless to say, I think he'll want to turn that record around tonight. And let's not kill any more time. Let's just get to him because introducing first, coming in with a record of one win, two defeats, he is Austin Pez Howell. Austin, how are we doing, sir?
Doing fantastic, Aaron. I am ready to get back into official competition. As you know, I kind of dipped my toes back in with that exhibition DC match, which I absolutely dominated and took as a regular match. So technically, I'm 2-2 if you're in my records and my standings and where I see myself. But I understand officially that doesn't count, and that's all well and good. But I'm going to get up back on the winning track today, and my revenge tour against Chad and Henry starts tonight in my book.
Absolutely. Well, you got a couple of matches to go before you get there, but let's start with your opponent. Now, obviously, you are coming in here technically as the underdog, quote unquote, in this match, although I don't think either of you could be considered true underdogs. But just how are you feeling? Obviously, you got that win in the exhibition match, but you're off the back of two losses, which I know because you seem to have a very large sense of personal pride in performance, is something that probably stings you, especially because one of those, I would still say to this day, is probably one of the most competitive matches we've ever had. Just where's your mindset at coming into this?
Look, I always come in and bring it everything. Whether or not I win or lose, sure, I'll take it personally or disagree with certain aspects of what went down. But in my mind, I played a win. I played a knockout. I take every match and every question 100% seriously. And look, even if I lose, if I put on a match that's memorable, one that people talk about, like with me and Chad Webb, like with me and Henry, those matches in the tournament that people look as standouts, I'm going to put in an entertainment performance. I'm going to put on a damn good show, and I'm going to whip some ass. Like that's whether or not I officially win or not, I'm going to put the fear of God in people. And I saw the fear that Papa West had in his eyes when you told him that he was going to have to face me tonight, and I saw it, and so I'm going to capitalize on that.
All right, sir. Well, I'm going to go ahead and sit you in the back for just a moment as we introduce your opponent. Coming in also with a record of one win, two defeats, but he does have that one knockout. He is everybody's favorite Papa, Jacob West. No, not Papa Smurf. And Jacob looks like he's seen the wrong side of a back alley. Papa, we talked about just there with Austin, the fear of God that was in your eyes. Now I can barely see your eyes thanks to your glasses. How are you feeling tonight?
Whatever. Like, I tried. It didn't work. Sure, I knocked out Tato, but let's be honest. A fucking Care Bear could knock out Tato. Don't even feel like putting my shirt on. I'm not even wearing pants. These aren't real. Life's not real. Like, who cares? Okay, I'll put my shirt on for real, but
Well, you had an undershirt, so it wasn't male nudity, so we were okay there. But I mean, look, listen, don't count yourself out, man. Look, you have more experience at this technically than Austin because you were debating well before he started. So you have that leg up on him. Obviously, your win was a knockout. He did not knock out his victory. So you do statistically have some things that lean your way. Is there any part of you that's just not counting yourself out of this completely? Because I do think if you have it, you have a chance here.
I mean, I'm not counting myself out. I'm just saying, like, what's the point? There's no point in anything anymore. You just want me to be
that
here.
Your name's in the end credits, and it makes
So
a
I'll
good
be
show
here.
if you try.
Well, whatever.
Let's see how this goes. All right, I'm going to go ahead and bring Austin into the show. Guys, let's go ahead and get it started. Movie Battleground is a game that is a best of 5 rounds. It is the first to 3 points wins. Each round is worth 1 point. If a competitor happens to get 3 points in a row, that will be a victory by knockout. If at the end of 4 rounds of debate, it is a 2-2 tie. We do have a fifth round. It is called the blind round, but we'll worry about that more in depth if we need to when we get there. In terms of how the actual rounds of debate work, the competitors were given the questions ahead of time. They've had time to prep. They'll start with a 60-second opening argument, followed by 2 minutes to expand on their arguments each. Then there will be a 4-minute open debate discussion where they will trade blows back and forth and get in as many points as possible, followed by a 60-second closing argument. At that point, we do have 3 judges backstage, and Will Cohen, Chris Diaz, and Jonathan Peck. They will come on screen, and based off of the things that were said in the debate, they will make a deliberation and decide who gets the point. With all that said, boys, do you have any questions for me? Are we ready to go?
Do I have to do this?
Yes, you are here and you hit record, so I would at least want you to sit through the recording. How much you try is up to you. I'm currently not in your state.
I didn't hit record, by the way, so don't put that on me.
No, I hit record because I produce the show. Anyways, let's go ahead and get into this. And speaking of, since Papa has tried before and now he seems to have given up, things that have given up, the Bond franchise at times that was a really bad transition, but at times the Bond franchise has seemingly given up because, let's be real, with the exception of arguably Daniel Craig, who is just wildly inconsistent, I feel like every single Bond that got more than 2 movies trailed off into this what the fuck is happening by the end of those films. And so it is worth asking the question of what is the worst. But we're not asking the worst in general. We're taking it all the way back to the early days of Bond. The question here is, what is the worst movie of the Connery-Lazenby era of James Bond? Now, with that said, the reason I specifically say Connery-Lazenby era is because we are looking at the films that were released between 1962 and 1971, all of which starred Sean Connery or George Lazenby. That does mean the 1983 film Never Say Never Again is technically disqualified from the question because not even that it's not made by Eon, it's just out of this whole thing in general. So with that said, I am going to bring up the banner. Papa, because you do have the knockout on your record, you were deemed the favorite of this match statistically, so you had the choice of which questions you go first or second on. You wouldn't know it by looking into his eyes, but he was deemed the favorite. And you chose to go first on questions 1 and 3, which means, Austin, you will get to go first on 2 and 4. So as I bring in the timer for you, Papa, it'll show up. I will change the thing because it looks better that way, and I will disappear, and the round will start when you begin speaking, sir.
That does actually look a lot better. Aaron, Mr. Cannoli, you can go and start my time, by the way. All right, Mr. Cannoli, I will say with your little trying to transition, it got to kind of laugh at me. I guess I'll try a little bit. And as I try to read my phone, that's actually really small. Fun fact, my glasses aren't fake. I do actually need them to see, believe it or not. Sean Connery, that's who I'm going to talk about because nobody fucking cares about George Lazenby. Just like no one should care about anything anymore. He had some good films. Dr. No, I don't know. I didn't see it. From Russia with Love, don't know. I didn't see it. Goldfinger, don't know. I didn't see it. Thunderball, don't know. I didn't see it. But then you have You Only Live Twice. Fun fact, that's my answer. Aaron, throw it up on the screen. There we go. That is my answer. Fun fact, Connery was tired of playing Bond because it's the end of it. Just like I'm tired of whatever I'm doing. And so he gave a pretty crappy performance. This is set in Japan. It's pretty racist. Yeah, that's great TV, guys. No, it's not. It's a crappy movie.
And time. All right. Austin, when you begin speaking, you have 1 minute to open, and Jacob, you have 1 minute to get your glasses. You'll probably need them. Time starts when you begin speaking.
This was an easy answer for me. When the opportunity was presented, one film immediately came to mind for me, and that's the final film in this chunk of movies. That's Diamonds Are Forever from 1971. And Diamonds Are Forever is easily the worst because not only did the producers have to coax Connery back with money to actually get him after George Lazenby, this movie actively tries to pretend like On Her Majesty's Secret Service does not exist, which is a bad thing because they should be continuing the storylines. They somewhat continue one storyline, but completely take a dump all over it and knock it out in the first 5 minutes and again pretend like it never happened. Diamonds Are Forever is one of the most uninspired, boring, and tiresome in the entire franchise. Sean Connery ended up giving his paycheck to charity, which is appropriate because this movie feels like a charity film to the Bond fans. It feels like a fan film that does not care about paying off storylines, continuity, having exciting action sequences, having any kind of memorable set pieces. Everything is about it just does not work, and I will expand on that in my further 2 minutes.
So I just want to take a moment to point out the horrible irony that Connery's 5th film was one of the selections here. and he was so done with the role that he left. The sixth film in this era, On Her Majesty's Secret Service, is often considered one of the best Bond films of all time. Go to a previous Battleground episode, I did the research. And then Connery came back after that film for Diamonds Are Forever, which is our other selection. Mr. Connery, this has to be up there with League of Extraordinary Gentlemen in terms of film selections. May you rest in peace, sir. Jacob, 2 minutes on the clock for you. You're muted, Papa. Papa, I can't hear you. There you go.
Aaron, can you hear me? I like it when I'm allowed to talk. My timer's going, and I'm okay with that.
I think you switched songs.
Because it's
I'll give you some more time.
Don't give me more time. I don't need more time. I'm wasting time. Fun fact, this is You Only Live Twice is set in Japan. So how racist can you be being set in Asian movies? Very racist. It's like we hate Asia or something. Like one of the first things he does while in Japan, he sumo wrestles. Because that's great, seeing James Bond sumo wrestle, because that's apparently all Japanese people do. And you know what else Japanese people do that only Japanese people do? Be ninjas. Guess what? This movie has ninjas. Because why? Why do you need ninjas in a Bond film? I don't know. Blofeld's in it. Blofeld's not that great of a villain. In fact, Diamonds Are Forever does the great thing and kills him off immediately. Fantastic. Diamonds Are Forever. I love you just for that. Sean Connery doesn't want to be there. It's obvious in his acting. So that's why the very next Bond film is not Connery. Yeah, they got him back. They probably shouldn't have, but that's neither here nor there. He's better in Diamonds Are Forever. Lewis Gilbert directed bad direction. That's why he took 10 years off from directing in general before we saw him again. Diamonds Are Forever, not bad. Has a pretty good song. Diamonds Are Forever. I can't sing, so please don't judge me singing the song based on the actual merits of the song. It is pretty good. You know what's not good? You Only Live Twice. Nothing about it is good. One of the judges flashed something on screen. I can't read it because it's small. I can keep going on and on. Why You Only Live Twice sucks. Guess what? This movie is done so much better when it's done in Austin Powers and The Spy Who Shagged Me, because that's a farce. And the fact that it takes it as a farce is better than them actually trying to do it. You Only Live Twice. Not a great song.
And time. All right. This is just a verbal warning, judges, just because, and for yes, people at home watching as well, because Papa is a producer of the show, I have also given Austin temporary access to see everything that Papa can. So, to the judges, just because the competitors can see you, please do not try and communicate them via any means. Let them focus on the arguments. Thank you. With that said, Austin, back over to you, sir. 2 minutes.
The reason Diamonds Are Forever is the worst, and when I talked about it being uninspired and kind of lazy, is there's almost no globetrotting in this movie. One of the things that Bond people love about watching Bond films is watching James Bond go to exotic locales all across the world that people who are watching may not get a chance to go to themselves. You know where Diamonds Are Forever takes place? Las Vegas. You know where a lot of people have been? Las Vegas, and it's uninspired. When I watch Bond gamble, I want to see him gamble in Macau or gamble in Europe. I don't want to see him gamble in Las Vegas. That's boring and absolutely uninspired. It has an absolutely terrible villain. I defy you to remember who the villain is. Oh, you know what? It's Blofeld, played by a completely different guy from You Only Live Twice. It's not played by Donald Pleasance. Is played by Charles Gray. Who's Charles Gray? Exactly. And there's a tired storyline of Blofeld having doubles, and it's just a completely tired storyline. It has a completely forgettable Bond girl and Jill St. John. The actual mistake this movie makes is killing off the second girl in the movie, Lana Wood, Plenty O'Toole, who has much more charisma and spunk than Jill St. John, who is completely boring in the role. Has completely forgettable henchmen. The two nerds of it's like Boyd and Kid or something like that. These two nerds who look like they should be in a Renaissance fair, who are completely unintimidating and completely forgettable. If you're not going to have a good villain, at least have a good henchman, and this movie has neither. The fact that James Bond in this movie looks like he's bored. Connery is just going through the complete motions, doesn't have a single memorable action sequence. The most memorable thing people think about from this movie is when he drives a Mustang on two wheels on its side. That's literally the only thing you remember. There's not a single good explosion, not a single good car chase, not a single good finale. The finale takes place on a bland oil rig. The problem with Papa West is what he did is You Only Live Twice is what one of the things he's talking about. He picked a good movie. He picked a really entertaining movie with a great location in Japan, with a great villain of Donald Pleasance doing the first Blofeld and arguably the best one, so much so that Dr. Evil is completely based on that. And a lot of things they did in the first two Austin Powers movies were directly taken from that, which is one of the positives and one of the reasons why that movie has a cultural impact and is beloved as it is.
And time. All right, we're going to go into the 4-minute open discussion. The timer will start when the first competitor speaks.
Look, I'll tell you why it's not racist. That's a completely surface level thing you're saying. Just because it's set in Japan and he participates in some of the cultures doesn't mean it's racist. The reason why it's not is 20 years after World War II, when there was still anti-Asian American, sentiment, anti-Asian sentiment in general, this movie has the balls to take place and showcase the better parts of Japan, showcase their culture in a positive light, have a positive protagonist working with Bond and Mr. Tanaka, and have an Asian Bond girl that he genuinely cares about and does a lot of things in the movie. It's actually more progressive than you would think.
Do you care about Aki though? I don't care about Aki.
Absolutely.
Not a great Bond girl. Not a great Bond girl. And you talk about the globetrotting in Bond films. No, people love the globetrotting in Indiana Jones. That's why they kind of dim the screen when Indy's traveling and show the map and show where it's going. That's pretty cool. No one really cares about it in Bond. You talk about Las Vegas. No one wanting to gamble there. Las Vegas is like the main set piece. Anything involved with gambling. That's why Disney's Marvel's What If Thor parties in Las Vegas, because that's where people want to go.
Las Vegas is what you do when you're out of ideas, Papa West. When you have exhausted your ideas and you can't think of anywhere else to go, you put it in Las Vegas. That's what you do. That's what movies do that are out of ideas and they're tired. And it does a Vegas thing, has nothing memorable that happens in Vegas. In fact, it has missed opportunities. At the same time he goes to Vegas, in real life, Elvis was playing. You wanted to make this memorable? Have James Bond have an interaction with actual Elvis. You would have something that there's completely missed opportunities that they could do. You could have fights on top of casinos. You could have, epic, shootouts inside the casinos. They do nothing with it. They just walk around.
You also talk about how they're just in Vegas. Fun fact, there are no oil derrick plants, whatever they're actually called, in the sea in Vegas, because Vegas is in Nevada, which is a landmark
and I dare you
state.
to defy me. I dare you to tell me where the oil rig was in this movie, because they don't even make it hardly clear. It's in Baja, which they don't even make completely clear in the movie, off the coast of that. And they just kind of show up there because they need a different setting for the actual finale. And then it's just like you don't even remember how they got there. They just get there because that's where the movie has to go. You Only Live Twice has those exotic locations. It has that different culture that they're showcasing. And the fact that Bond is actually portraying them in a positive light. They are his allies in the movie. They're not the enemies. The Japanese people are fighting the enemy of Blofeld, people trying to take over the world. They are fighting that. So it's a complete reversal of what happened 20 years earlier in World War II, where they were the part of the axis of evil. It shows that the people have progressed. They're trying to do better, and it's trying to paint them in a more positive light for American audiences, which is progressive. It's not racist.
Blofeld also has a ton of Japanese assistants. In fact, the ninjas are part of Blofeld's army.
No, the ninjas are actually part of Tanaka. They fight Spectre in that movie. They come down. They're part of Tanaka's group that fight, and it's actually part of one of the great climaxes of that movie. Super entertaining. They're all coming down on ropes with samurai swords and fighting the Spectre agents. It's actually quite spectacular. It's one of the things that make, like, how can you say ninjas are boring? I mean, ninjas entertaining. That's why that movie's great.
Ninjas are overused and very boring. Three Ninjas is very entertaining, I will say. Unfortunately, the Three Ninjas were not involved in the Bond film.
Ninjas, but here again, you got to put it in perspective. 1967, ninjas were not overused. We hadn't even gotten to the 70s of the kung fu films that used ninjas and kung fu in general. So it's actually not. You're portraying a modern day trope that wasn't a trope back then.
Okay, whatever you say, Pez. Whatever you say. Please let me talk and keep talking instead of interrupting me with your pointless sayings. You talk about You Only Live Twice, bringing to light the amazingness of Japanese culture. Really, it doesn't. It brings in sumo wrestling, which is a trope. And then it's pretty much like being in America. There's nothing spectacular about the set piece, except it just happens to be Japan when you actually don't know it's Japan, except for the fact that people look different than they do in normal places. Not normal places, that's weird to say. I'm just going to watch as the time goes down.
I was going to let you get your points in. That's fine. Go ahead.
I know. I was getting points in. Thank you, but the timer scared me.
And time. All right. We're going to go into the 1 minute closings. Papa, you are back up first. Time starts when you begin speaking, sir.
Like I was trying to reiterate before, James Bond, I haven't seen most of the movies. Why? Because most of the ones that I've watched suck. It's an overused character, overused franchise. Really not a ton of great films. And especially in You Only Live Twice. Sean Connery was done, which is funny because like James Bond had just started. It was only like 6 years old and he was ready to be done with it. It was shown very heavily in this movie. A lot of non-memorable pieces, because I'm glad you were able to name some because you just looked it up, because you studied. That's great. Good on you. The character of Blofeld, not really that great of a character. Okay, so he was the best of the three that we've seen. Guess what? All three have sucked. And again, Diamonds Are Forever does the best thing in killing him off instantly because nobody likes him. Diamonds Are Forever.
And that is going to be call time on Jacob's round. Austin, time starts when he begins speaking.
Look, he alluded to it a little bit with You Only Live Twice. The fact that a lot of the Austin Powers movies takes things from that movie is because it's almost like a love letter. It's a parody, but it's a love letter to those movies. The fact that they're memorable and he makes fun of them, you go back and see everything that's in there, means that they had an impact on pop culture, which is why it's brought up in those movies. Almost everything that is in that movie, from Dr. Evil's look to the drills to the big battles in the underground facility, like all that stuff is literally from that movie, which means it's that it's beloved and part of a pop culture. And Diamonds Are Forever literally has nothing of that. Nobody talks about this movie, and for good reason. Again, there's nothing to see. Even when they do action sequences, there's literally, when they're blowing up helicopters and things, it's composite fire. They're not even blowing up miniatures. It's like fake fire. I mean, they don't even know how to make anything. There's a chase sequence involving a 15-mile-an-hour dune buggy where James Bond's kind of escaped. It's completely cringeworthy. You Only Live Twice actually has great gunfights, great hand-to-hand combat. Again, some martial arts stuff in there. They're blowing up actual models and miniatures. It's a fantastic helicopter fight. You made a mistake by picking a good movie, Papa.
All right, and that is going to be time. I'm going to go ahead and sit you guys in the back and bring in our judges. Just a couple of quick little things that were checked during the round. There was a comment made saying that director Lewis Gilbert didn't direct for 10 years after the movie. That is both correct and incorrect. He would return to the Bond franchise. However, it would be 10 years after directing You Only Live Twice. However, it would be 10 years before he would do that, after he returned to make The Spy Who Loved Me in 1977 and then Moonraker in 1979. However, he did continue to direct all throughout the 1970s, making 5 films between You Only Live Twice and The Spy Who Loved Me. Not that I've ever heard of any of them, but he did make movies. When it comes to the Bond casting in Diamonds Are Forever and the whole thing with that, so yes, Connery left after You Only Live Twice. Basically, he was done with the role. There's not much more to it than that. Australian actor George Lazenby was cast in the role, and though he was offered where the hell did he go? They were offered a 7-film contract, was offered to Lazenby. He left the contract after just 1 film on the advice of his agent, which, by the way, worst agent ever. After going through a long list of potential people, with the top candidate to replace him as Bond being John Gavin, best known for playing Sam Loomis in Psycho, with the actors list also including Clint Eastwood, Adam West, Burt Reynolds, and weirdly enough, Ranulph Fiennes, who is a cousin of actor Ralph Fiennes, who was actually not an actor. I don't know why on earth he was ever considered, but and including tabling an offer to actor Michael Gambon, which was rejected. The producers ended up going back to Connery after their next top pick, actor Roger Moore, who would later go on to be Bond, was busy filming a movie. In order to convince Connery back into the role, he demanded a high fee at the time of $1.25 million. United Artists, the studio that produced the films at the time, also had to offer him a 2-film contract outside of the Bond franchise, meaning he got to put any 2 films into production following the completion of the movie. And then the Last thing was Diamonds Are Forever, the song that Jacob attempted to sing, is more famously known nowadays for its sampling in the Kanye West song Diamonds of Sierra Leone, which is probably the best contribution that film made to the modern day. But with all of that said, Will, you were up first, sir, so I'm going to go ahead and shoot it over to you. Based on what was said, who gets your vote and what sold you?
While both competitors definitely had some solid points, my vote goes to Pez this round. There were just a lot of points that he managed to make about Papa's film that just did not feel combated. Pez was just very, very dominant in this round.
Okay. Diaz, I go down to you next, sir. Who gets your vote and what was the main selling point?
Yeah, same thing, Austin. I thought he hit harder, especially during the open debate round, using the example of why his movie bad and Jacob's movie is good, and he won it for me in the end.
Okay. All right, judges, thank you guys so much. I'm going to go ahead and sit you guys in the back as we bring the competitors back in and move on to question number 2. And it's interesting that the top candidate to replace Bond would be the actor who portrayed Sam Loomis in Psycho, because we are moving over to a genre and a category in which Psycho would definitely be considered a qualifier. The question is, what is the best horror movie released in the 1960s? We are talking classic horror here. I was going to cite film examples, but the first one that came to my head is The Haunting, which the more that I think about it, I am not sure was a 60s movie. I think it may have been earlier. But with that said, we're going to go ahead and jump into this. Pez, you are up first on this one, so I'll bring the timer back in for you. And when you are ready, you can begin.
So for this one, I went with one I'm very passionate about, a genre I'm very passionate about, and a genre which was created with this movie pretty much out of the mind of its director, and that's George A. Romero's Night of the Living Dead. So that is my pick for the 1968 Night of the Living Dead, a movie that literally created a genre. The modern day reanimated zombies did not exist before this film, and it created a lot of things that are still aped and still tried and still troped to this day, but were not a trope at the time, obviously, because they were started with this film. This film still has an impact to this day. It had a lot of progressive things at the time. The social commentary of the African-American civil rights era. It has a lot of Vietnam allegories. The movie itself, even if you just take it at a surface level, zombie survival film, has a very claustrophobic feel. It plays like something right out of the Zombie Survival Guide, and watching what the main character Ben does throughout this movie to survive this global crisis. And yeah, it's a movie that was ahead of its time and still holds up to this very day.
All right, that will be time on Austin's opening minute. Papa, I go over to you for the same amount of time. And you're muted again before you get going.
Well, it's okay because I didn't start talking, Aaron, so it doesn't matter. Now that I'm unmuted, I can start talking. And time starts, sweet. Let's go. Fun fact, Tubi has a section called horror. Their top recommendations on horror movies, The Thing, but not that thing. We're talking about 2011's Mary Elizabeth Winstead thing. Underworld, Evolution, The Hills Have Eyes, Look Who Got Away, The 13th Warrior, apparently that's a horror movie. The Hunting, Freddy's Nightmare, Insidious The Last Key, Insidious Chapter 3. That all to be said. Kids, don't be like Tubi. Tubi is a laughingstock of a streaming service because right now Tubi has a movie on it called Psycho, and the fact that they are not showing that as the #1 film to watch is stupid, because they should. Kids, watch Psycho on Tubi TV. Tubi, thank you for sponsoring me for this match. Psycho, the Alfred Hitchcock classic, is the best horror movie of the 60s. Fun fact, it came out in 1960. It is still a bone-washing thriller. Bone-wrenching is a better word for it. Thriller, even if you watch it today for the first time and know the truth.
All right, so we got Night of the Living Dead versus Psycho. Two very different movies, both of which involve corpses. Austin, back over to you for 2 minutes on the clock.
Night of the Living Dead manages to be innovating, groundbreaking, and exciting all in one. And again, like I said, still holds up to this day. You have a main protagonist of Ben, played by Dwayne Jones, who does a fantastic job of being this protagonist. And while it wasn't really intended to be progressive at the time, ended up being it because you didn't have many black leading men at the time, especially in the horror genre, much less in any genre other than Sidney Poitier starting to break out around the same time. And to tell you a little bit about where the world was even to this day. He stars in this movie, and there are even, he still didn't get the respect even though he's the leading actor in this movie. Excuse me. There was a review that was put out at the time, and these are not my words; these are reviews' words that said, "Oh yes, he's quite a capable, resourceful Negro," which is absolutely disrespectful and shows why this movie was still ahead of its time, even in 1968 when it was released, and what it did for the genre. But again, even on being just a surface level zombie film, it starts out at 100 miles an hour. We meet this couple, they're coming to get you, Barbara, and right from the opening 5 minutes, there's a zombie attack. Something's going on. You are thrown right into the action. She's running. She runs to this house. She gets to Ben, and Ben knows what's going on. He's a smart character, which is also ahead of its time, because a lot of horror movies are known for having really dumb protagonists, people that make bad decisions. He makes great decisions throughout this movie. He takes authority. He takes the lead, and there are other people in this house, other white people in this house, especially Harry, the character who is clashing with him the whole time. He takes the role of, he is telling the white people what to do in this movie, and he's taking, you are going to listen to me. I am the man of the house, and you're going to do what I say because I'm going to keep you guys alive. And he's still trying to do the best thing for everybody involved. It has great action. There's great sequences where they're trying to get gas. It works just on that level, and it has an absolutely gut-wrenching ending where this militia mob at the end is just going around shooting everybody. And despite the fact that you've been with it this whole time, they shoot Dwayne Jones dead. So, and it leaves you with a gut wrench, and again reflects the politics of the time and what was really going on for people who were standing up for those beliefs.
And time. All right, Papa, back over to you. 2 minutes on the clock.
This is the one thing I love about Movie Battleground and just debate in general. You get to experience movies that you would have never watched in the first place. Both these movies I actually have never watched until whenever I just decided to study. I will not reveal when I studied last night before, but that is for me to know and you to find out later. That being said, I love Night of the Living Dead. It is great at times. And Pez, if the question was what is the most influential movie, you hit the nail on the head. This created the genre of zombies. Zombies were not a thing before this, except unless you look into history, and a lot of like Native American tribes, Egyptian tribes had some sort of zombies on there. But like, hey, my top 64, there are 2 zombie films. Wouldn't have happened without this movie. But saying that this is the best film of the best horror of the 60s is kind of outrageous. It's good. It's not great though. You said Barbara and Johnny are a couple, know their brother and sister. That's disgusting. They do that in Arkansas. Barbara are also the fact that they go 100 miles an hour right at the very beginning. It's a little slow for the first couple minutes, and then you start getting crazy. Fun fact, a zombie runs at the beginning of the movie, which you'd be like, oh, hey, that's really cool. Zombies run. They never run again. In fact, it's stated later that zombies are slow-moving creatures. Wait, I thought I just saw one running, so it doesn't follow its own rules. Interesting. Ben, I will say, great character. Gut-wrenching death. It's very sad to watch him die. But it's not Psycho. It's 3 stories all in one movie, beautifully told by Alfred Hitchcock. You have Anthony Perkins giving the performance of his life as Norman Bates, Janet Leigh giving a fantastic performance as Marion Crane, and it has 2 twists. Of course, the one we all know, Marion Crane dies in the middle of the movie, even though she is like the highest praised person, or not highest praised, but highest billed person in the movie. Oh, and then Mrs. Bates is dead all.
All right, we're going to go into the 4-minute open discussion. The timer will begin when the first competitor speaks.
After you, sir.
Oh, you're going to let me talk. Thank you so much, Pez. Again, you had a good pick for the wrong question. One problem that I have with Night of the Living Dead, it does have great scenes. Like whenever Harry is dying and he goes downstairs, beautiful. When his wife comes downstairs and sees the daughter eating his dead body, great. but it has a lot of really throwaway scenes. Pretty much the entire anything to do with Barbara outside of her running to the house is throwaway. The entire time, she's like the entire movie. It's really bad.
Yes,
Whenever Harry's wife
she's having a
dies,
mental breakdown. That's one of the aspects of the film. All the different characters are described like different things that people would do. One has a mental breakdown. One is fighting back against the guy trying to save everybody. Another one is kind of stuck in the middle. The wife is stuck in the middle and trying to influence her husband. Each character represents a different dynamic of what people would do in this situation.
yeah, what Barbara's going through is not a mental breakdown. It's just called bad acting. Harry's wife's death, the fact that she starts screaming and then Romero starts using the sound as like an echo to her screams is bad. The score has some good moments, but moments like that where he overuses it takes you out of the movie. You know what score doesn't take you out of the movie? In fact, heightens the movie? Psycho. Anytime Mrs. Bates pops up, you have the yeah. It's incredible. Just like most other movies.
Yeah, and I'm glad you mentioned the score, because without that score, this movie wouldn't be as memorable. It's kind of like Halloween. You take it out of it, it kind of takes a lot of the tension out of it. And notice, judges, that he's only talking about those two main twists and those two main scenes, because without those two main scenes, the rest of the movie kind of falls flat. You don't really get a chance to get invested in Janet Leigh's character. She has the most interesting storyline, but then once she's killed off, the movie peaks and then follows around much less interesting characters. It's both its best aspect and its worst aspect, because the second half of the movie completely drops off, which is why nobody talks about the second half of the movie.
You don't like Lila Crane and Sam Loomis looking for trying to figure out what's going on with her sister. You don't like what's his name, Anthony Perkins talking to the private investigator, just that whole interaction. You don't like that? Those are pretty.
We're just at that point. We're just waiting for him to get caught. We're just waiting for the resolution, because we already know what's happened to that character. Because again, he's already killed off the character, and while it's an exciting scene for what it is, we're completely uninvested because we're taking it out of it. It was a good twist at the time that modern audiences go back and go, okay, that was kind of interesting for how early it did it. But you put that movie in front of modern audiences today, and they're going to check out at that point because there's nobody left to follow. There's nobody to root for. It's just a study of Anthony Perkins at that point. And speaking of studies, the fact that this movie, the ending of the movie, treats its audience so stupid that it trots out a psychologist to tell you what happened in the previous 90 minutes. It treats its audience like a dumb, and we have to break down, oh, here's what happened with Norman Bates, and here's why he's crazy, and this is disorder and that disorder. I mean, it treats its audience like they were freaking idiots.
I mean, does it? I don't know about you, but I don't really know psychological issues, and so getting the actual description of what's going on, because this was also 1960. We didn't have the internet. We didn't know why people go through these things. So it actually describes why real life people have this real life disorder. What happens to cause people to have this? That's not really calling your audience an idiot. It's educating your audience.
But the fact, if they had leave it on the table and let the audience interpret that and let people write papers about it, which is what people did about Night of the Living Dead, the commentary that's interpreted after the fact, it doesn't spell it out. It'd be like if Night of the Living Dead brought out a Black Lives Matter activist and said, well, the reason why the ending of the movie is interesting is because white people at the time were lynching black people. That'd be the equivalent of that. The fact that it does that treats their audience like they're idiots and has to spell it out like they don't know anything, instead of just letting them infer what's going on, infer the backstory, letting them let it sit on those creepy moments and letting you kind of fill in the blanks.
That's just your opinion, is exactly what people would say if it did not do that. There's nothing saying that is why. Did you say in time? There's 5 seconds left. I'm so confused right now.
It's at 0.
And now it's at 0. It was at 5 seconds when you said time, if that's what you said.
It was at 0 here. With that said, okay. Austin, you are up first for the closing. 1 minute on the clock when you begin speaking.
Let's face it, Psycho to a modern audience is not going to feel interesting or ahead of its time, because the whole crazy white guy who kills people has kind of been done to death. And in fact, even the certain themes of this movie of a crazy guy who has parental issues and who kind of goes after women was done 3 months earlier with Peeping Tom over in the UK. So it really wasn't super progressive. At the time, people were already doing stuff like that. Like I said, most of the interesting characters are killed off or forgotten about. And the fact that Norman Bates, really the movie hinges on you going going to his place to have a threat in the movie. My movie has a threat that threatens everybody, a threat that is always there, that's always looming, the horde closing in on this claustrophobic house, and the fact that Norman Bates is overpowered pretty easily by a character who's not caught off guard, and he's not even really a threat when it comes down to it. He only wins in certain cases because he kind of jumps out of a place or catches people when they're not ready for it. My movie, it's a constant threat. It's something that affects everybody. It's affecting everybody psychologically different, and it's a global thing. So yeah, my movie's way ahead of its time, created a whole new genre. It still holds up today, and it's still exciting.
And time. All right, Papa, back over to you, sir. You have the final minute on the clock when you begin speaking.
All right, I'm starting to realize that I'm on a delay, but that is okay. At least my video and my audio seems fine. With that being said, you said Norman Bates is overpowered. Actually, no, he's not. When he's fighting Sam Loomis, he knocks Sam Loomis out with the vase. They're both fighting each other, going back and forth. No one's overpowering. And he gets overpowered at the end because he's attacking Lila, and then Sam comes out and gets him from behind. So he's not really overpowered unless he's getting sneak attack, which I would get overpowered by that too. That being said, though, the ending to Night of the Living Dead, you can say, hey, they killed him because he's black, or you could say, hey, they saw something moving, they didn't know what it was, and so they shot. Shoot first, ask questions later. It's not the greatest thing in the world, but it doesn't have to be racist. You talk about the slow build to Psycho, or that you have 2 moments in the film. It's called building a story, finding out why you care about what's going on, why you care about this woman looking for her sister. It's a Wonderful Life is a 3-hour movie, and the great parts are the last 30 minutes. Guess what? If someone wants to kill themselves, why should I care?
Time.
The 2.5 hours, that's why I care.
All right. We're going to go ahead and send the competitors to the back. Another good round there, guys, and I will bring the judges on screen. Again, just a couple of quick things that I looked up for fun. So in terms of, because it was brought up, the origin of zombies, zombies originated from Haitian folklore, which was the very basic concept of corpses being reanimated in Haitian folklore, usually through the idea of voodoo. The modern zombie as we know it, the creation of it, so to speak, because obviously it is based on something you can directly link to, is actually accredited to the Richard Matheson novel I Am Legend. However, in terms of popularizing the concept, Night of the Living Dead is accredited with that, and George A. Romero has directly said that I Am Legend was one of his inspirations for the film. So Austin is not technically wrong in that if we're talking about films specifically, Night of the Living Dead is where a lot of it originates from. In the Night of the Living Dead film, at the start of the movie, Barbara and Johnny are siblings. They are not in a relationship, since there seemed to be a bit of a contextual thing there. In terms of the accreditation in Psycho, people who understand film credits actually would have realized sooner rather than later that Marion Crane, or not Marion Crane, excuse me, or no, her name is Marion Crane, that is her name, might not be around as long. Though she is the main face on the poster, on both the poster and in the main opening credits of the film, Janet Leigh is given the and crediting, which is a specific last billing that is reserved for famous actors playing smaller roles in films. So Hitchcock actually listed it for you right there. Anyone who understood the basics of film would have understood that she would not be a major character for the bulk of the film if you understand how crediting works, although she is the main face on the poster over any other character in the film. So if you don't know how credits work, it is very easy to trick people. And then, yes, Norman does get into a fight with Sam Loomis during the course of the film, knocking him out, thus proving that at least at one point in the film, he can hold himself in a fight. He is not completely weakened, and at the end of the film, when he is finally taken down, there is more than one person involved in that. But those are just fact checks cleaning up the arguments. It is about the bulk of what these guys said. So, Diaz, I go to you as concise as you can get it for me. Who gets your vote and what's sold?
It'd be great for coming and I say, great if Jacob West, the open debate at the end, he made a lot more points and doesn't get past enough time.
Okay, so I can barely hear a thing that you are saying. It sounds like your mic's not plugged in, but I do know that you're voting for Jacob. So we're going to go ahead and move down to Peck, sir, as concise as you can get it for me. Who gets your vote and what's sold?
2 very good points by Pez and Papa, and I think that for me, I think who would get sort of like the best point of the question around that era, around that time, and basically why sort of its impact when as a whole. So I will get my points to Pez.
Okay, so it is a 1-1, which means Will, we go over to you, sir. Who gets your vote and what was the main selling point?
So both of these films, when people talk about, horror films of that era, are usually the pinnacles. What we're talking about though are the arguments, and for the I feel for the first time this match, Papa really showed up. He managed to not only combat every single one of Pez's arguments, but managed to just absolutely slay in some of his arguments that were almost impossible to refute.
All right, guys, thank you so much. I'll go ahead and sit you in the back as we will bring the competitors back into the game and move on to question number 3. And how about this? That with horror, suspense, thrills. Let's move as far fucking away from that as we humanly possibly can. Do we agree on that?
I mean, that's the
Well, you
progression of
don't
the
have a
questions.
choice. It's the
Sure.
question. The question is, what
Oh,
is
you're
the
trying to do
best
something
sports
with
comedy film released in the 1990s? So we're going to go ahead and move into it. Papa, you are back up first on this one, so I'll bring the timer in for you, and it will start ticking when you begin speaking.
1990s, full of a lot of great comedies, a couple sports comedies, some great, a lot generic tellings of stories that we have seen before. But one that is great, not only because the jokes are hilarious, the bits hilarious, the performances hilarious. It's just great because it does a lot for the sport that most people don't like. I'm talking about the sport of golf. The best sports comedies of the 1990s, 1996's Happy Gilmore. This is Adam Sandler in his prime. He would later go on to be just like Sean Connery towards the end of his Bond career, which did not last long at all. Thankfully, Sandler's career lasts a lot longer than that. But yeah, this is prime Sandler before he started not caring. Just like I quit caring, I guess. Wait, am I Adam Sandler? That would be depressing. No. Happy Gilmore, best movie. Get in your hole.
All right, and that is time on the opening. Judges, I'm going to move to strike the Adam Sandler's career surviving as a good thing because while Uncut Gems is really, really good, it's not equal to all those fucking Netflix movies. And I can say that because they don't have anything to do with this. Austin, I move over to you, sir. Time starts when you begin speaking on your opening.
Feel the rhythm, feel the ride. Get on up. It's bobsled time. My pick for the best sports comedy released in the 1990s is the absolute classic Cool Runnings, a movie that still works to this day, that people still talk about, that people still have beloved in many of their top 100s. It's a wonderful movie all around, and the reason why it's a great movie is because it's a movie that literally anybody can watch from any time period, any generation, and latch onto something. It's a movie with great themes, great comedy, and a fantastic cast that all has wonderful chemistry together. You got Dougie Doug and Leon and John Candy, so many amazing character actors kind of spilling throughout the movie as well. Just good stuff all around. It's got great sports scenes, which again, if you're gonna have a sports comedy, you have to have great sports scenes. There are exciting sports scenes. It makes you care about a sport that literally nobody cared about. I mean, talk about golf. At least there's a fan base for golf. No one cared about bobsledding before this movie, and people actually cared about it afterwards. And the fact that it's based on a true story and they were able to make a movie that's fun and uplifting and inspirational and funny at the same time is a real achievement.
And that is time. Jacob, back over to you, sir. 2 minutes on the clock.
Yes, Pez, you're right. Nobody cared about bobsledding until this movie came out. Guess what? This movie came out like 20 years earlier, and nobody still cares about bobsledding. People actually do kind of care about golf just because of this movie. You know how many people go to a driving range and do the Happy Gilmore slap shot and fail miserably because it's really impossible to hit a golf ball doing that? I'd imagine like 90% of people. I don't watch every single person at a driving range. I've been to 3, and I've seen it happen 6 times. So that has to tell you something. Nobody relives moments from Cool Runnings, although I would love to see somebody like stick out of an ice cream truck frosted over. That's the only good thing about Cool Runnings. I get it. It's a great feel-good story about a group of ragtag people who nobody believes in actually succeeding. Oh, wait, no, that's Remember the Titans. Or wait, was that Miracle? Or wait, was that Hardball? it's overplayed of this ragtag group of people that nobody believes in succeeding. I've seen it over and over again. Cool Runnings has some fun, cute moments. Hey, I might watch with my kids, but overall, it's not upper echelon. How many top 64s have you done that someone has Cool Runnings on there? None, because it's not a great movie. You know what is? Happy Gilmore. How many times have you seen that on a top 64? I actually don't know because I don't watch every single episode of your show, but I know it's been on at least one. So it's up there. It has great cameos. Bob Barker pops up, gets in a fist fight. Wow, words are hard. With Adam Sandler. Great scene. Ben Stiller pops up, abuses old people. That's hilarious. He makes being abusive hilarious, which nowadays you can't make funny. It's physically impossible to make that funny. What's something funny in Cool Runnings? Nothing? It's there. Thank you for a feel-good story. But it's not memorable. It's not great, unlike Happy Gilmore.
And that is time. All right, we are going to go ahead and move on to Austin, sir. 2 minutes on the clock when you begin speaking.
Funny how all those movies he mentioned were after Cool Runnings, but I'll just leave that as a moot point. So yeah, Cool Runnings was not only an innovative genre as far as bringing Olympics to the front right. It works again still today. There are very funny scenes. The whole most of the stuff in Jamaica is all comedy. Sanka is a very funny character who has tons of memorable lines. You know, I'm not smoking, I'm freezing. You know, ice, like all that stuff is really good. His chemistry with all the rest of the cast is fantastic. It has the legendary John Candy, who while he's doing the commentary for all the bobsledding film footage, and I say, oh, that's gotta hurt. Oh man, and you cut to the punchline of everybody just being gone 30 seconds later. It's excellent. But the thing about my movie is it starts out with a comedy, and it's funny throughout. It has a lot of great fish out of water comedy once they get to Canada, but it also rewards you with a good dramatic story. Your movie has no story. It has one line of exposition that kind of kicks the story off. An IRS guy comes and says she's about to lose her house, and he's got to get some money to get the house. And Adam Sandler does what he does throughout this entire movie, and which is why we don't care. We've never met this grandmother before except they're in a montage. Why are we supposed to care? You're supposed to be on Happy Gilmore's side, but all he does is commit acts of violence and assault throughout the entire movie, and that's literally every punchline or every other joke is him just punching somebody in the face. And it gets old really, really quick because the whole 90 minutes is him punching people in the face. He punches out his hockey coach. He punches out the IRS guy. He punches out Kevin Nealon. He punches out his caddy. He punches out an alligator. He punches out Bob Barker. Everything resorts to violence. And you know, the interesting thing about Happy Gilmore is it hinges on you liking him, but you end up not liking him, and you have to be 100% in on Adam Sandler's shtick in order to like the movie. If you're not an Adam Sandler fan, you're going to be turned off immediately. There's no crossover appeal to this movie. And the fact that the movie also features some funny characters, but all the characters are funnier than Adam Sandler. You have the Kevin Nealon new age golfer, who you want to see him and follow him throughout the tour because he's funnier. Shooter McGavin is trying his hardest, but in the end, he's still a cliche villain that's just mightier than thou, above the peasants kind of a thing. And yeah, Bob Barker's in there, but it's the only thing that people would talk about. People talk about, the price is wrong, bitch, but like that's the main thing that people talk about in this movie.
And time. All right, we're going to go into the 4-minute open discussion. The timer will start when the first competitor speaks.
Pez, you said Happy Gilmore doesn't have a story. He's trying to raise money to save his grandmother's house. He wants to play hockey. He tries out for hockey, and he realizes he can't do it.
Why should I care about that? Why should I care about that? Like, I'm sorry the grandmother doesn't have money, but like, why should I care? They do nothing to set up that story whatsoever. He just jumps right into it.
It doesn't matter why you should care about it. It's somebody trying to provide for his grandmother. I mean, that's a feel-good thing right then and there. Yeah, it's not a drama like yours, but again, it doesn't need to be a drama. It's a comedy. Comedy makes you laugh. Okay, the story isn't always the main focus. Getting you to laugh is the main focus. I'm laughing a lot more in Happy Gilmore.
Is violence just funny? Because that seems to be the only punchline in this movie is violence. He commits violence and you laugh. Is that the formula of this movie? Because literally every scene is just him. Happy Gilmore should be in jail 30 seconds into this movie. And like, I don't understand. Like, you have to have a protagonist that you're with that makes you laugh because of like jokes and situational humor. But every situational humor just ends with that. That's literally all it is. And again, the side characters are funnier than he is. And the movie's called Happy Gilmore.
So if you look at like all the cartoon series as we were as children, Tom and Jerry. I can't think of any others because I can't think right now. There's a funny thing called slapstick humor. Guess what? It's violence, or you step on a rake, it comes up, smacks you in the face. That's hilarious.
Actually, it's more about the anticipation to it and the buildup. It's not just because somebody gets smacked in the head, which is what this movie seems to think it is. The reason why Looney Tunes works is because there's a progression and there's a buildup and a release. Like there's a setup that you kind of know is coming, and then when it happens, it's still funny.
No, Tom and Jerry's hilarious. There's no buildup to that. Tom runs around the corner and gets hit with an iron and his head's a triangle. That's hilarious. There's no buildup to that. Slapstick, there doesn't have to be a buildup to it. It's just funny because it's funny. The Three Stooges, that was something else I was thinking of but could not say immediately. Thank you for bringing up Looney Tunes. Yes, slapstick, sometimes there's a buildup to it. Sometimes it just happens. It doesn't matter. People like watching people get hit. I don't know what makes it funny.
Hey,
I just know
my movie actually gives a shit about its story. Actually gives a shit about setting up characters, setting up character motivations. It gives you John Candy's Irving Butcher's backstory about him cheating, being kind of blacklisted. It gives you Sanka's backstory of wanting to kind of be famous, but he's not. Derice kind of wanting to living in his father's shadow and wanting to live up to that expectation. Junior, living under his father's thumb, and it actually gives you reasons to actually root for the characters and care about them. So while you're laughing, you also care about the story and where it progresses. That's the difference.
Yeah, I'm glad your movie tries to build character. My movie tries to build character also. You're rooting for Happy to win money for his grandmother. I realize you're not, and that's because you're a sadistic asshole. I'm rooting for Happy to win because I don't want his grandmother to live in this abusive nursing home. I want Shooter McGavin to lose. Guess what? Because he's an arrogant asshole. I don't like arrogant assholes. I want to watch them suffer. Whenever Happy Gilmore hits the hole-in-one on a par 5, everyone immediately runs from Shooter like, he just hit a hole-in-one on a par 5. We have to go watch this. Oh, hey, that's another scene that I remember very fondly. I thought you said there was only one scene that people remember. Oh, I guess I'm not like everybody else. From that moment on, Shooter McGavin is a horrible person. You want him to fail. Whenever he tries to set Happy up to lose horrendously, you realize he's an arrogant asshole. You want him to fail.
He's a villain. He's supposed to be arrogant, but is he arrogant or is he just confident? Or is he just, that's because he is the best golfer in the world and he doesn't want this sadistic psycho who's going around assaulting golfers to be on the PGA Tour. And when you grow up and realize that he actually has a point and this guy should not be on the thing committing felonies, you kind of decide and you're not with him. And the fact that my movie, it actually tries to have some kind of heart along with the comedy and give you something to get behind. The Hans Zimmer score is great as well. Your movie has no score, has no good direction, nothing like that.
All right, so we're going to go into the 1 minute closings. Jacob, you are up first on this one.
Okay, I'm sorry my movie doesn't have a score. Guess what? You don't have to have a score to be a great movie. It deals a lot with comedy and comedy tropes. Guess what? It's because it's a comedy. You look at what comedy was when we were children. It was slapstick. What is it here? Slapstick. It worked for us then. Yes, I realize now it might not work like it used to, but that still does not defeat the fact that it was great then. And you know what? If you like Adam Sandler's humor, it is still great now. No matter what it was always great then. Whenever a Shooter starts cheering because the watchtower falls and there's no way Happy's going to make that shot, you're like, hey, that's an arrogant asshole. I do not like him. And then Happy makes a shot and wins. Oh, man, that's a feel-good story. I would say done better than Cool Runnings, based off of a true story, a story that I don't care about. Guess what? Watch the movie, and I still don't care about it. Don't care about bobsledding. Watch the movie. Still don't really care about bobsledding now.
All right, we're going to go into the closing. Austin, time starts when you begin speaking.
Yeah, I liked Happy Gilmore better when it was called Caddyshack with a bunch of wacky characters around and a couple of arrogant rich assholes, fighting underdog characters. It's called Caddyshack. And it's funny, you said one thing that was key there. If you like Adam Sandler, you're going to love this movie. Well, that's the problem. You have to like Adam Sandler to like this movie. It's a very condensed movie as far as that goes. If 5 minutes into this movie, it's all Adam Sandler, the Abby Doobies, and punching people in the face. And if you're not down with that in the first couple minutes, you're going to switch it off because it was the shtick you went with the 90s, and that's just the way it is. is. My movie actually cares about your characters, has funny moments, great fish out of water comedy, great representation of the Jamaican culture, and comedic stuff with that, with people interacting with Jamaicans later on, and then progresses into an even better film and makes it a great film, like a total film. So the best comedy sports film released in the 90s is Cool Runnings. It's a total package of great laughs, great drama, and great acting, and great characters, great everything. So again, Adam Sandler, that's fine if you like Adam Sandler, but you have to like Adam Sandler to like your movie, which is the problem with the movie.
All right, and that is going to be time on another really good round of debate, guys. I'm going to go ahead and sit you both in the back as I bring the judges on screen here. Not a lot of particular fact checking with this one, except for the fact that I didn't have the list, but I can certify that all the movies Jacob did mention did in fact come out after Cool Runnings when he referenced films that were similar to it. So Austin was correct in that fact. Also, on the note of the Happy Gilmore shot is difficult to recreate. In fact, one of my best friends happens to really like doing that at Topgolf for some reason. So if I get his permission, insert clip of him doing it here. Okay, so let's go ahead and turn it over to our judges. Jonathan Peck, sir, you are up first. As concise as you can hit it for me, who gets your vote and what soldier?
All right. I have to. I'll give my points to Papa West because he put out for why Happy Gilmore is not only sort of a best sports comedy around that time, but it was also sort of a funny movie that you can pretty much you can tell what jokes and what they have it because, and also the same point, I didn't hear enough from Paz of like why for more. I didn't hear enough for Paz for Cool Runnings that it's sort of like is not only a heartwarming film is there, but I didn't hear the rest of it. I was hoping he was going to. So, that's the reason I will give my point to Papa West.
Okay, so our first vote goes to Jacob. Will, down to you. Who gets your vote and what soldier?
So I think Jonathan and I are actually on the same wavelength because I did say Papa as well, but here's why. Like Jonathan was saying earlier, it felt to me like Pez was really trying to defend against Happy Gilmore the entire time instead of really giving a lot of points about why his film was great. And that's the reason why Papa got the slight edge here, because Papa was able to address both films where Pez was really only addressing Happy Gilmore half the times.
All right. Well, judges, thank you once again. I'll go ahead and sit you in the back as I bring the competitors back in, and we will move on to question number 4 in this match. And we are, again, in the ever-changing, let's go to something completely different. We're going to go to a man who has not directed a sports comedy, as far as I'm aware. Although, who knows? He technically said he'll make one more movie, so maybe this is the sports comedy. We are, of course, talking about the only man who could get credibility for talking about how many movies he's not going to make, Quentin Tarantino. And while he is often beloved, let's knock him down a peg. The question is, what is Quentin Tarantino's most overrated film? There are, basically everything he's made is critically acclaimed. I don't know, maybe not what the fuck is the one in the late 90s with Pam Grier? Why am I forgetting the name of that movie?
Jackie Brown.
Thank you, Jackie Brown. I knew it was Brown. I just could not get the first name for the life of me. Maybe not that one for reasons that were just made clear right then and there. But everything else is pretty much acclaimed to the point where you could probably argue that it is overrated. So with that said, Austin, you are up first on this one, sir. I will go ahead and disappear and turn the show over to you for 1 minute.
This is why this is difficult. This question is a little difficult, excuse me, because Quentin Tarantino is a very accomplished director, and pretty much all of his movies are good. So how do you go about approaching this? Well, my approach is the definition of overrated is rated or valued too highly. And what I went with is Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, because it seems to me like there's a disconnect with this film between audiences and critics, and why it's overrated, because the critics seem to really, really, really love this movie. 10 Oscar nominations, 85%. All the positive reviews you see on Rotten Tomatoes are 4 out of 4, 5 out of 5. Everybody praising everything about this movie, and the audience is significantly lower, 70% audience rating and a B cinema score, which is actually kind of bad for cinema score. And the reason with this disconnect is why I say it's overrated. It's overrated to a lot of the mainstream audiences, and looking for a great movie, looking for that Tarantino magic, but not getting it with Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. And there's that real disconnect between, and it's real significant at the time today, the disconnect between what audiences are looking for in a movie and what critics are looking for in a movie.
All right, that will be time. Jacob, over to you, sir, when you begin speaking.
All right, kids, let's go on a trip back in time to whenever my last debate was. I'm not really good at keeping track of days anymore since what happened last year happened. I don't want to talk about it anymore, but it happens. To a time where I had to debate an actual potato that I called Jake. And we had the question, what is the most overrated Lord of the Rings movie? And I physically hurt myself because I said Return of the King, although one of my favorite films in my top 5 was the most overrated Lord of the Rings movie. And I had a point, and I actually won the point, so it works out. Let me tell you why my number 2 favorite movie of all time is Quentin Tarantino's most overrated movie of all time. Aaron, put it up right now. Pulp Fiction. It is not only answer number 2, it is my personal number 2 favorite movie of all time. Most people, when talking about Pulp Fiction, that is a perfect movie. Quentin Tarantino is a great director. Yeah, he is a great director. But that being said, Pulp Fiction is not a perfect movie. It's enjoyable. It's not perfect.
And time. All right, Pez, back over to you, sir. 2 minutes on the clock when you begin speaking.
You know what movie is not in a lot of people's top 10? Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, and for a good reason, as far as regular people, because maybe in a lot of critics' top 10 for the year or 2019, or maybe some of the top of Quentin Tarantino's filmography. But that's what I'm talking about here. It's made for super fans of old Hollywood, and if you're not a super fan of like old timey Hollywood or the era of the '60s, which Tarantino is clearly a fan of, you're going to be not only lost in this movie, but kind of bored and disinterested. It's a movie that really doesn't have much of a plot, like at all. It's just following these two guys kind of going from set to set, from scene to scene, from character to character, but there's no overall through line. And that's going to be really complex for audiences as far as trying to enjoy the movie on that level. Pulp Fiction is intriguing right from the opening start. You have a dynamite opening with Sam Jackson walking into that apartment and do the Ezekiel speech. You have, oh my God, I shot Marvin in the face. You've got the wolf. You've got, the cleanup afterwards. You've got, the diner heist at the beginning. You got all the Bruce Willis stuff with the trying to get back the watch. You've got the Christopher Walken scene. Lots of interesting things to keep audiences invested. The stabbing of the heart, all that stuff. But the reason why Once Upon a Time in Hollywood just doesn't have a lot of those dynamic moments, a lot of that magic that makes it happen. Again, why it's overrated is because it's specifically catering to this critical audience, and they love it. They just think it's like the greatest thing ever. It's Quentin Tarantino's masterpiece. But regular audiences are not going to say that. As I said in my opening, 70% and a B cinema score. And the dialogue just doesn't hit. While the performances are fine, it's just a character study, and there's nothing to really latch onto in the movie, as opposed to Pulp Fiction, which has everything from beginning to end. Again, one of the most influential films of all time, and it's kind of perfectly rated. It's not overrated. If you ask any person on the street what their favorite Tarantino movie is, 9 times out of 10, maybe even 10 times out of 10, they're going to say Pulp Fiction, and there's a reason for that. It's not only his biggest hit, kind of critically. I don't know if I don't think it's his box office hit, but as far as like the movies that everybody talks about with Quentin Tarantino, the first thing that comes in anybody's mind is Pulp Fiction, and that's a good reason for that, because it still holds up to this day. It still works. It influenced many directors, Nolan, PTA, Aronofsky. All those guys cite Pulp Fiction as a thing that really jumped them off.
And time. All right, Papa, back over to you. 2 minutes on the clock.
Yes, 2019, the very, very beginning of 2020, when the Oscars were a thing, critics loved Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. I understand why you think it's overrated. If we were living in March of 2020, guess what? April of 2020, nobody was talking about Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. Nobody cared. Critics, fans, everybody, nobody cared. 2021, we were not talking about Once Upon a Time in Hollywood because it happened. Maybe it was good, maybe it was bad. It happened. I'm over it. 2022, we're really not talking about Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. Critics, fans, everybody alike, because we're over it. Like it didn't leave a lasting impression in most everybody's minds. Critics, fans alike. That's why when you ask multiple people, you've done Top 64 so many times. How many times has Once Upon a Time in Hollywood been mentioned? I don't think ever. Henry might have. Henry, I didn't watch your episode. I'm sorry. I just don't have time for that. He might have maybe mentioned it, but most people are not mentioning Once Upon a Time in Hollywood now. Why? Because it came out. There was that maybe it's good, maybe it's not. I don't really care. Most people have it at the bottom of their list, critics, fans alike. Guess what? Everyone is still saying Pulp Fiction is a perfect movie. It's not a perfect movie. It actually opens up in the diner scene between Honey Bunny and Pumpkin. As you said, it opened up with Jules. It's actually like 30 minutes in when he finally walks into the apartment. There's a reason nobody has done the telling a story in these weird time conjunctions like Quentin Tarantino did in Pulp Fiction, because it didn't really work. John Travolta isn't really a great character. Him and the whole Mia Wallace like dancing scene is just awkward. The date scene is awkward. I'm not a big fan of it. Bruce Willis, not a great character in Pulp Fiction. Quentin Tarantino throws himself in there as Jimmy. Not a great character, like not that memorable. The funniest thing about him is the fact that John Travolta is wearing a UC Santa Barbara banana slug. Sure.
All right, we're going to go into the 4-minute open discussion. The timer will start when the first competitor speaks.
All right, I'm going first this time. Look, the reason you don't know that people are you won't know if people are going to talk about that because it's only been a couple of years. That's my point. Pulp Fiction has had nearly 30 years to acquire that audience and have people still regard it to this day as Tarantino's best movie. That doesn't mean it's overrated. That means it's perfectly rated as his best movie. Like, that's my point. Once Upon a Time in Hollywood may eventually get that audience where people might be doing that. We don't know that. I can't tell the future. But all I can tell is at the time and in this recent history, people do rate it extremely high. People were saying it was his pièce de résistance. You know, he shouldn't do another movie. He peaked with this one. Like, that's my point.
Yes, people were saying it right after it came out, because whenever something first comes out, you have an excitement about it. Whether you liked it or not, you were excited about it when it first came out. So you're going to say some weird things. Guess what? 2 months later, nobody was saying that. 3 months later, nobody was saying that. And there's a reason. 30 years from now, who cares? The question is not what is.
But you don't know that. Like, you don't know that, Papa. You're just saying that. Like, it's something you're saying. Like, you don't know that. Like, that's why it's all speculative. Like, 30 years from now, I'm pretty sure people are still going to be writing papers and dissertations about Pulp Fiction's impact on pop culture and how it influenced other movies, because that means it's perfectly rated. People are still doing that to this day. They're still taught in film class. Like, it's still beloved by students all over the world, by film fans. You mentioned tournament fights. Pulp Fiction damn near comes up every time because everybody loves Pulp Fiction. That means it's perfectly rated as his best movie.
No, it comes up because people have a hard on for Quentin
including
Tarantino.
you.
And
including you at number 2, including you, which you mentioned. I didn't mention that. You mentioned that. Number 2 for you, of all time, out of all movies, all history. So how is it overrated if you love it to have it at your number 2? You said that, not me.
Hey, I said I like it. If I'm rating, what are my 64 the best movies ever made? It's not the best movie ever made. I like it. It's one of my favorite movies. It's not a perfect movie, like was what said multiple times when people talk about Pulp Fiction.
I never said anything about it being perfect. You're talking about that. You're making those points, but like, I never said anything about that. I just said it was a damn entertaining movie. It's one of the first things people think about when Tarantino, which should count for something. When you think about Tarantino, you associate him with Pulp Fiction, which does not mean it's overrated. It means it's perfectly rated where it is because people are still talking about, despite the fact that he's made 7 other movies after that.
I'm basing it off of, hey, in my top 64 episode, Richie Goodacre flat out said Pulp Fiction is a perfect movie. JPO flat out said Pulp Fiction is a perfect movie. Yes, I can name 2 people at least who have said.
Yeah, and people can believe That's fine. Like people can make those arguments, and that's not a problem. My broader point was that damn near everybody has it in their favorite movies of all time, which should count for something. And again, go to my point that it's not overrated. It's perfectly rated as one of the best things. The reason why I was going after Once Upon a Time in Hollywood is again because it's only catering to a specific audience, and the people in that audience love it. As far as the elite critics and the people who think they're something special above the average moviegoer that it's not going to connect with. That was my point.
Yeah, and it's a weird point because, hey, 3 years later, I'm bad at numbers, guys. I'm sorry, I failed math. Nobody's talking about it. That's critics alike. There are plenty of critics who talk about Quentin Tarantino movies. And what are the better movies? What are the top movies on his list? Not Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. Again, when it first came out, critics were saying this is a perfect
You're just
movie.
making my point that Pulp Fiction is not overrated then. Like, if Pulp Fiction's at the top of all his list, then it's not overrated. Like, it's rated. Like, it's rated as his best thing. Like, that's my point. Like, again, I'm talking about, like, the thing that in the movie, it's that disconnect. The fact that it's just not going to click with audiences. It's not going to work as a big movie. And, like, because of that disconnect, that's what hits it. When you have to watch, when Quentin Tarantino puts out an article about 10 films you have to watch before you watch Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, you shouldn't have to do homework to watch a movie. Pulp Fiction, you can watch it and enjoy it, and it gets better with age.
And there's a reason people are not watching Once Upon a Time in Hollywood today.
People are watching Once Upon a Time. Again, you say that, but like every time, when the next Tarantino movie comes out, you're going to get all these ratings and all these people blowing up Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. I guarantee you people are going to be blowing it up. It's just because we're in like a dead spot right now and movie theaters were closed. Like nobody's really talking about it at this moment. But the fact that you're saying that and you're projecting that like nobody's going to be talking about it 30 years from now, you don't know that. You're just speculating.
I mean, if you want to call that speculation, whatever. There's a reason why in 2020 when theaters were shut down, people weren't like, hey, I guess I get to go watch Once Upon a Time in Hollywood again. No, because people.
Yeah, but you know what they are showing? They're showing Pulp Fiction.
They
show Pulp Fiction every year, which is why it's perfectly rated because people love it.
And
not a great movie. Again, a lot of.
I know you're on a delay. That's why I'm being more forceful about it.
Thank you for audibly saying time loud enough to where I can hear it. It is just always annoying when you're about to say something and time runs out, but it is what it is.
All right. Well, Pez, we're going to go over to you. You have 1 minute left on the clock, sir. The timer will start when you begin speaking.
Again, Papa West is just making my arguments for why it's not overrated. He's claiming it's overrated, yet he's heaping all this praise onto it and talking about how people still talk about it. That's why it's perfectly rated. Do you understand that? Like, that's why it's perfectly rated, because people still talk about it. It has influenced countless directors, countless actors, countless clones of movies that came out in the 90s. It had all this thing trying to be Pulp Fiction because it wasn't overrated. Like, the reason why Once Upon a Time in Hollywood is overrated as far as valued too highly is because it is valued by those critics and those people, those elite, that the audience that it's catering to is propping it up as one of the best pieces of cinema, one of the best tributes to old Hollywood, one of the best movies that has all these references to other movies, and Quentin Tarantino just loves Hollywood so much, and he just made his masterpiece. All of his knowledge is thrown into this, and it's so great if you rewatch it over and over again. And it's a movie with no story, that wastes a lot of its characters, that wastes a lot of its actors, that's not going to connect with people. It's a movie that, like, yeah, but the critics, again, the critics are still going to be talking about this movie. Again, you're just guessing that, but the critics are still going to be talking about this movie. The audiences may not, but that's exactly what my argument is.
All right, and that is time. Papa, you got 1 minute left on the clock, sir, when you begin speaking.
What I'm saying is right now, 3 years after the movie came out, critics are not still talking about this movie. That's not a speculation. That's a fact. How many times have you heard a critic say, well, Once Upon a Time in Hollywood was great? What I'm saying is people are not talking about it. It's not overrated. It's a bad movie. People agree it's a bad movie. Pulp Fiction, people say, is a perfect movie. I gave you two examples in an episode both of us were on, saying it's a perfect movie. It's not a perfect movie. People say this is one of the best movies of all time. It's not. That's why it's overrated. The storytelling, telling stories in different time frames, throwing them all in, is very confusing. The Vincent Vega Mia Wallace is thrown in there for absolutely no reason. When Vincent Vega and Jules are in the nightclub for absolutely no reason. I don't know why they're there. With Bruce Willis in Zeb's pawn shop. I don't know why that's there. It's not a perfect movie. The performances really aren't that great. Samuel L. Jackson, yes, fantastic, great in that movie. John Travolta, not great. He's in the movie. Bruce Willis, not great. He's in the movie. I'm saying overrated.
All right. Guys, I'm going to go ahead and sit you both in the back. I will go ahead and bring in the judges as I have just the basically the only fact check that I was doing was first off, the Rotten Tomato scores were brought up. So to accredit them, Once Upon a Time in Hollywood has an 85% critic like rating with a 7.9 out of 10 score. Audiences gave it a 70% like rating with a 3.8 out of 10 or 5 score, excuse me. Pulp Fiction, meanwhile, has a 92% like rating with a 9.2 out of 10 score, and the audiences give it a 96% like rating with a 4.6 out of 5 score. What I was doing was, because it was constantly brought up where these films rank, I decided to go to a couple of different publications, and so I went to specifically publications that have movie reviewers at them. So I pulled up 3 websites in Collider, Variety, and The Wrap, and I also pulled up the Rotten Tomato scores and ranked those. On each of the lists, respectively, Once Upon a Time in Hollywood ranked 6th on Collider, 8th on Variety, 10th on The Wrap, and 6th in terms of Rotten Tomato averages. Pulp Fiction ranks 3rd for Collider, 1st for Variety, 2nd for The Wrap, and 1st for Rotten Tomatoes. However, what's interesting is more than any of this is the 2 lists in which Pulp Fiction is not listed first. For The Wrap and Collider, it's actually Jackie Brown that is listed first. I've never seen it, so I can't judge, but considering I only hear people say that movie is one of the weaker ones, I actually think that's rather interesting. Other than that, we had a very aggressive, passionate argument between these two. So, Will, I go to you first. Who gets your vote, and what was the main selling point?
First of all, I absolutely love Jackie Brown. If you haven't seen it, see it. This was a very, 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 very heated match on this round. I had to give the slight edge to Pez this time, just because I feel like he really had Papa on the ropes multiple times, and I kept on there were just certain moments I just kept on waiting for Papa to really drive his point home, and it just didn't happen.
Okay, so the first vote goes to Austin. Chris, down to you, sir, as concise as you can get it. Who gets your vote, and what was the main selling point?
It's a really confusing argument. I went the opposite way with Jacob in the end. I feel like he gave enough point and actually going with the most overrated bring up group he'd been in such. And stuff like Pat just get credit for its audience, and Jacob were able to fight back that nobody talked about Once Upon a Time in Hollywood anymore. Just Jacob won in the end.
Okay. So it is 1-1, which means Peck, I go over to you. Who gets your vote, and what was the main selling point?
Okay, then. Well, this is very easy, and I'll keep it short. My point will go to Pez because, kind of like what Will said, I felt like Papa West is kind of grappling on some ropes, and basically, and he was trying to counter that with basically, well, that's the before March right here, though. I don't know what I was talking about. Well, that's a sort of like I felt like he's a bit of a stretch when your argument try to argue around that, and I didn't hear enough of why it's a little bit more. Why his film was kind of more overrated. Others, I just felt like they're more, I'm not saying nitpicks, but it's like more like sayings along with it. So that's the reason I will give my point to Pez.
Okay. All right, guys. Thank you so much. I'll go ahead and sit you in the back as I bring back in the competitors because we are not yet done.
Here we go.
Not
done yet.
We are moving on to the blind round. The other fact check that I had, which was loading at the time, which is why I moved on, is Papa, to answer your question, the match against Jake Tato was uploaded on January 27th, 2022. So at the time of uploading, it's about 6 months since he played. With that said, we are going to be going in case this is your first Movie Battleground. Welcome. Genuinely, thank you for being here. But if it is your first time, you don't know what a blind round is, this is the ultimate trickery we could possibly put on somebody. This is a question in which the competitors have zero indication as to what it'll be or where it'll come from. It is also a question that they won't actually get to answer properly. The way that the blind round works is they will be given a generalization of a question. My classic example has been, name me a Will Smith movie. Off of the generalization, they will give me a film. The order in which they answer is the order in which they will debate. once the answers are submitted, I will reveal the proper question to them, at which point they will have time to go off screen, prep their debates, come back, and fight. Even if they feel that their answer does not 100% meet the question, they will have to do their best to argue. And by this point in the show, we have seen plenty of examples in which people have picked the less obvious answer and yet still won the debate. So with that said, the actual debate itself will work the exact same as the last 4 rounds, so that's the only thing that won't switch up on you guys. With that said, are you guys ready to go?
Sure.
Here we go.
Okay. And then for the audience at home, the banners will be a little bit behind normal. As I said earlier, because Jacob is a producer on the show and does have access, I gave Austin the same access as well, so the blind rounds have not been typed in ahead of time. So just bear with me there on that. All right, gentlemen, your question or your prompt is, name me a Robin Williams film released in the 2000s, and that is 2000 to 2009. You are allowed to do some quick research if you need to.
I was going to say, can we look up IMDb real quick? And that's okay?
Yes, that's
Okay,
absolutely fine.
Gotcha.
You said 2000s, correct?
Yes, 2000s, and that is 2000 to 2009.
Okay, Jacob.
Go
I'm
ahead.
gonna go with Night at the Museum.
Night at the Museum.
All right. I'm going to go with Insomnia.
And Insomnia. All right, so the battle is Night at the Museum versus Insomnia. The question is, what is the best Robin Williams film released in the 2000s? So as I said, guys, we are going to go off screen. The competitors will have some time to put this together, but for you at home, it's only 20 seconds of elevator music. We'll be right back with the blind round. All right, guys, welcome back to the blind round. As a reminder for everybody, the prompt they were given was to name me a Robin Williams film released in the 2000s. I am Aaron Knoll, not Porky Pig. The question at hand is, what is the best Robin Williams film released in the 2000s? This time, I think you could argue that the Blind Chance and Fate might have lucked out for them. We have probably 2 of the better ones, although they are very, very different films. We do have Night at the Museum from Jacob. We have Insomnia from Austin. Jacob, because you spoke up first, you will be going first on this round. So as I bring in the timer for you, you can begin speaking when ready.
Starting now, Robin Williams, fantastic actor. Probably one of my favorite actors. Although did not say that on my top 64, so that's not canon. I know who is my favorite actor, Tom Hanks, but it doesn't matter for this. Fun fact, most of Robin Williams' great performances came out in the 80s and 90s. 2000s, not as memorable, but there are a couple that peak out there. There are a couple good movies of his that peak out there, regardless of if he was the top performer or mid. Like in Night at the Museum, my personal pick, where he is kind of a secondary character, but still has great moments. Night at the Museum, directed by Sean Levy, came out in 2006. Teaches people, whether you're a child or an adult, you can get entertainment out of it. Teaches you, hey, you might be down on your luck, but guess what? Your break is coming. Ben Stiller's Larry Daly constantly getting fired. Guess what? His moment's coming. Just stick with it. No matter what, stick with it. This movie's great. It has everything. It's for everyone. Best Robin Williams film of the 2000s.
All right, and that will be time. How's the time delay looking?
The fact that you said time when it was at all zeros means we are good.
Perfect. Austin, back over to you, sir, when you begin speaking.
Yeah, I picked a movie I'm actually very passionate about just on the side. I picked the film Insomnia, and I think it's interesting that Papa West and I both chose a film featuring a supporting Robin Williams performance. So that's kind of a wash as far as if we arguing, it was just a supporting role. Well, they're both supporting roles. But the reason why I chose Insomnia, not even knowing the question, but luckily I lucked out with this one because I really love Insomnia. Insomnia is excellent. It's a great, not only a great Robin Williams performance, but a great movie in general. One of Christopher Nolan's best kind of underrated movies that ages like wine, and it gets better every time you see it. Especially now that it's 20 years old, a lot of people don't go back to it. If you haven't, it's absolutely it's an incredible psychological thriller that would fit right in with a lot of kind of slow burn, nice thrillers. It's got a great premise of Al Pacino being in this small town coming over from L.A. And this small town in Alaska where it's in the season where the sun doesn't go down, so it's constantly light outside. It's already messing with his natural insomnia, so he's getting even less sleep, and it builds to a great murder mystery and a murder thriller aspect where Robin Williams is the killer, but he does a great performance.
And time. All right, Jacob, back over to you. 2 minutes on the clock.
Some other great lessons Night of the Museum teaches you. Owen Wilson and Steve Coogan's characters. Hey, don't hate someone because they're different than you. Owen Wilson plays Jedediah Smith, a cowboy. Steve Coogan is Octavius, a Roman character. Guess what? They hate each other. They become great friends, and throughout the franchise, become the best of friends, and it's amazing. It also tells you, hey, you can love somebody even though they are different than you. Robin Williams plays Teddy Roosevelt. I don't know who it is. Mizua Peck, I wonder if she's related to Jonathan, plays Sacagawea. Guess what? They end up falling in love. Hey, you can love someone who's different than you. Hey, I'd also teach you don't judge a book by its cover. Rami Malek plays Akhman Ra, who is a Egyptian pharaoh. When Ben Stiller first meets him, he's scared of him. Guess what? I'd be scared too if those big dog statues started turning, and they're very scary to begin with. You see him wrapped up in a mummy. I'd be scared too. No, it turns out he's actually a really great guy. Really fun to be around. Don't judge a book by its cover, kids. No matter how old you are, you can enjoy this film. Whereas Insomnia, guess what? As a kid, I'm not watching that movie. That's going to scare the crap out of me. And you know what else it teaches you? Go to sleep or else you'll kill somebody. That's a great lesson. Not true. People with insomnia are not actually killers. I'll go ahead and use the rest of my time with that statement, Aaron.
All right, no problems there. Go ahead and jump the clock ahead. That's not nearly far enough. Let's try that again. And that was perfect. All right, Austin, 2 minutes on the clock for you when you begin speaking.
That final statement was odd because Al Pacino's the one with insomnia, and he's not the killer in this movie. Robin Williams is. He's just kind of going mad from his insomnia and not being able to sleep. But anyways, the premise of the movie really adds to it. Like I was talking about, it's a really solid psychological kind of murder procedural where Al Pacino is brought in as this veteran to kind of lead this local team and kind of show him the ropes, especially Hilary Swank, who he kind of takes as a mentor. The cinematography in this movie, you haven't gone back to it, it's absolutely gorgeous. Alaska is already beautiful. But the way Wally Pfister shot this movie, it's absolutely breathtaking and stunning. It adds to the overall atmosphere of the film. It's a very dreary film, but it's supposed to be because it's a very dreary premise that, the movie gets more and more kind of claustrophobic and feels like it's closing in on you because Al Pacino, with his not sleeping, is getting more and more on the edge. He's not knowing kind of what's real, what's not real, and the setting almost adds to that. It adds to his mental state and the clouded judgment, literally the clouds rolling in, the clouded judgment. Great symbolism there. It's a great movie because Christopher Nolan does this. It doesn't have any goofy sci-fi premises. Nothing you have to really like wrap your brain around to like nothing that's like super confusing or throw regular audiences off. It's just a really good thriller. And Robin Williams, again going back to him, the way he plays the killer is he's not being like super overly creepy or like making mean faces or like saying creepy things. He's like talking things so casually and so politely. When his phone conversation with Al Pacino, their chemistry is absolutely electric in this movie, where it's just like them talking about this case and him admitting to killing this girl in the movie. It's like them just talking about a sports event or something, or like talking about their grocery list. And that's what's creepy about it, is because he's so casual in how disturbing he is in his menace. And it's Robin Williams' best thing. When he shows up in the movie, he makes an immediate impact, and he immediately has chemistry with Al Pacino, and it lights up the screen. My only problem with Night of the Museum, it's a movie that doesn't really know what it is. It wants to be a special effects showcase. It wants to be a heartfelt family film. It kind of wants to be like a slapstick comedy. It doesn't really know what it wants to be, so it doesn't really work as a complete film.
And time. Okay, we're going to go ahead and get into the 4-minute open discussion. The timer starts when the first competitor speaks.
After you,
It's
sir.
not that it doesn't know what it wants to be. It wants to be a comedy for everyone to enjoy. So yes, it's going to have that slapstick humor because people enjoy that. It's going to have the humor that only kids laugh at. It's going to have the humor that only adults laugh at. It's something it wants everyone to enjoy. It also does have amazing CG and amazing set pieces. You know, you have the dinosaur, the stone dinosaur at the very beginning. Every scene where it moves is great. You have the little minifigs. You have being in Africa, and then you have when the Neanderthal ends up being outside after the sun comes up, and you have a moment where you start crying because
But
you
that's
look
but
at
that's
the
the point.
Neanderthal
Does
looking
it
at
want to
you.
be that crying, heartfelt movie? Does it want to be a special effects showcase and like it just showing off the special? Hey, here's what we can do with CGI, and here's here's a little bit of comedy on the side. It's kind of like an ADD movie where like it doesn't know, it's unfocused. It doesn't really know what it wants to be. Robin Williams himself in the movie is kind of a caricature of Teddy Roosevelt. He's not really given like a strong performance. It's more like an SNL sketch of like what Teddy Roosevelt would be, and it's not particularly memorable. He's only memorable because he's given kind of the most screen time out of the side characters and kind of becomes not really been sort of sidekick, but almost kind of like his own mentor or something like that. I mean, he's okay in the movie. I'm not gonna say he's bad, but like it's more of a caricature. My movie has a much stronger dramatic performance, and that's where Robin Williams really shines. I.e., Dead Poet Society, Good Will Hunting, all that kind of stuff. That's where he shines.
Yeah, well, it doesn't even matter about his performance because the question is not what is the better performance; it's what's the better movie. Again, and I'm not saying it's not that Night at the Museum doesn't know what it wants to be. It wants to have all these different things for you, so you can enjoy it on different levels. Guess what? If you don't like thrillers, you're not going to like Insomnia. If you don't like thrillers, there might be some parts you don't like of Night at the Museum, but you have all these other
Well, my
moments
movie's
that
not
you're
just a
going to
thriller;
love.
it's also a character study of Al Pacino and the morally gray aspects that he's going through, and it develops throughout the whole thing. Where Robin Williams and him going back and forth, he's forced to kind of look at himself and realize he's not that different from Robin Williams. He's not a full-on killer, but he's not that different, and it gets more and more intriguing. People who love like Law and Order and stuff, like you're gonna love the procedural aspect. It's got good thriller aspect. It has some really good chase sequences, actually action in this movie. If you like action, it has some really good action sequences, and other people are just gonna appreciate it for how great it looks, how great it's shot, and how great it's directed. So it's
Yes,
absolutely a better
and
movie.
has a lot of slow moments too. Guess what? Night at the Museum doesn't really have a lot of slow moments because there are all these different things happening all at once that you get to enjoy. Whether it's seeing all these new things for the first time, falling in love with these characters. I'm not gonna lie. I think Robin Williams gives a great performance as Teddy Roosevelt. That's why most people think of him as their
Well,
favorite
it's
president.
it's trying to be so broad that they're just throwing stuff at the wall and just like seeing what sticks. So like, oh well, if you didn't like the him slapping a monkey back and forth with shaving cream in his mouth, maybe you'll like him chasing the dinosaur around, or maybe you'll like Rami Malek just screaming in a tomb. Like it's like we're gonna throw all this stuff at you and just see what sticks because we have to keep everybody's attention. We're trying so hard to do that. My movie keeps your attention by getting you invested in these characters from the very beginning and see where they develop, like see where their stuff goes, and really developing and making you question whether or not you're with them or not, whether or not the main character is actually a hero, whether or not you sort of almost side with Robin Williams in the movie. That's what keeps it intriguing.
And very confusing too because you don't know if it's Robin Williams, you don't know if it's Al Pacino, I don't know what's going on with that. Guess what? Mine has a great twist when you find out that the old security guards, old men, end up being the bad people, and then the action scene with them fighting Ben Stiller's character, not only pretty good action, also kind of funny. Again, bringing some more comedy aspects in it to make it more enjoyable. Uh,
Well, I mean, is it really a twist that the old man, like when they telegraph it, the fact that Mickey Rooney's just calling him butterscotch and just mean mugging the whole time for that movie? It's really unfortunate what they do with the older characters with him and Bill Cobb and Dick Van Dyke especially. They're kind of wasted as just these characters that have like it's really not founded their motivations. Like they're robbing from an old museum that nobody goes to anyways. That's just odd and strange, and it almost feels unearned because you don't really set up the fact, like you don't really hint at the fact that they're bad guys, but all of a sudden they just are. Like it's just a weird twist that it was kind of unneeded in that movie.
And time. All right, we're going to go into the 1-minute closings. Jacob, you are up first. Time starts when you begin speaking.
It's called a twist ending. You're not supposed to see it coming, and then boom, it hits you out of nowhere. That's a good twist ending. I'm not gonna say they're thrown away. They're built up. Or Dick Van Dyke is kind of a mentor at the very beginning to Ben Stiller, and then you're supposed to kind of forget about these characters. Of, oh, hey, I know these actors from previous movies. They're in it. That's cool. Oh no, they're actually brought back to be the bad guys. It's a surprise. It's not supposed to be a oh, hey, you remember these guys from earlier? No, it's a fun little twist. Also, more drama scenes from this movie that you're not expecting. When Robin Williams' character gets cut in half, and you're like, oh no, Teddy Roosevelt's cut in half. I actually feel for this character. Then you get to see him build his relationship with Sacagawea when she sews him back up. Again, the Neanderthal disappearing because he is outside of the museum by the time the sun hits is a really tear-jerking moment, which you don't expect in a 2006 movie. Insomnia,
And
really all it
time.
is a drama.
All right, and Austin, back over to you for the final minute of the game. Time starts when you begin speaking.
Yeah, my movie's a drama. It's a thriller, and it's a great police procedural. But it excels at every single one of them to the highest level of filmmaking. With a director like Christopher Nolan, just absolutely at the top of his game, even really in his third movie technically, and really making a movie that has aged very well, especially when you go back to it. Again, what you were talking about, Night at the Museum, it was kind of adding my point that there's one too many subplots. There's like 800 subplots in this movie that you can't follow. There's stuff with his kid who has no chemistry with. There's Carla Gugino, who's completely wasted, who you forget about in the movie. Yeah, you've got all the different sub things of him trying to solve all the different problems with all the characters, and it's just too much. Like, it just gives you a headache, and all that stuff. You kind of have to set up, sort of hint at twists. It doesn't mean you have to give it away, but you have to hint at things. The fact that they're bad guys just kind of comes out of nowhere. It doesn't really make a lot of sense, and it's an unnecessary plot device that you didn't need, with the museum already kind of failing and him trying to save it. My movie dives into conspiracy stuff. It takes twists and turns with Al Pacino trying to cover up some shady things he does during the chase sequence. And again, going back to Robin Williams, he gives a phenomenally dramatic, creepy, disturbing performance. That's one of his best, not only the 2000s, but his whole career.
And time. All right, guys, a good final round there. You both laid it all out on the table. Let's see what paid off. I'm going to go ahead and sit you both in the back as I reintroduce our judges, and just a couple of quick fact checks here. So first things first, as was mentioned, Night at the Museum does have a very, very large cast. The number of cast members were listed. That includes Ben Stiller, Carla Gugino, Dick Van Dyke, Mickey Rooney, Bill Cobbs, Ricky Gervais, Paul Rudd, Robin Williams, Rami Malek, ahead of his Oscar win, Steve Coogan, Mizu Peck, which, Jonathan, only you can confirm if she is in fact related to you, and Owen
I'm not
Wilson,
half Native American, so I just want to tell you that right now. I'm son of the missing child, and I'm sort of, lastly, my other ways, but that one is not. Just wanted to get that out of the way.
I think it was more a joke that they were making, but no problem. And then, of course, Owen Wilson, who actually did, in fact, go uncredited for his work in the film. That a lot of people may know that. In terms of Insomnia, since I don't know if it was meant to be a point or if there was legitimate confusion, but it can be cleared up. There is only one murderer in terms of the person that you were looking to find for murder in the film, that is portrayed by Robin Williams. However, Al Pacino's lead character does accidentally kill his partner, which is one of the things that is building into his insomnia. So though they are both technically killers, when you are addressing the murderer in the movie, that is only Robin Williams. When you were discussing the film Insomnia in Nolan's whole filmography, it is the third film of his filmography, released in 2002, following the first movie he made, and Memento, his second film. It's also considered by many to be the most simple film that Christopher Nolan's made in terms of ease to follow. While the Batman films aren't necessarily the most complicated movies, you could argue that there is Batman lore that plays into it that you would have to understand to some extent, possibly. However, the bulk of his films outside of that all play with some kind of time mechanic or sci-fi element that could make it a little headier for people to understand. Insomnia is much more of a straightforward, straight to the point thriller. That is because, if people don't know, it is a remake of I believe it was originally a Norwegian film. So that's why it is based off of something and was readapted by Nolan. But with that said, it's not about the fun facts I found. It is about the points made in the fight. Chris, I go to you, as concise as you can put it for me. Who gets your vote, and what was the main selling point?
Yeah, this was an interesting debate. I thought to the end Ped won it for me, often just because I felt he more example for the film. He used plenty of examples. He argued back about like the media having no focus, that it was telegraphed early. He managed to pull in how good Robin Williams performing with the film overall. So he won it in the end for me.
All right, so first vote does go to Pez. Jonathan, down to you. Who gets your vote, and what was the main selling point?
Chris, we're on the same page. I'm going to give it to Pez because, and basically same thing as he pointed out. And also, I want to add to that is that Paz pointed out that basically he was sort of like great detailing that not only Robert Williams' character in the film, but Al Pacino's character in the film. It's sort of explained that they were sort of two alike during the argument, though, and based on little differences. One has insomnia along with that, but he put us a great comedy, a great back and forth between them and throughout the film during his argument. So that's the reason I'll give my point to Pez.
Okay. All right, judges. Thank you guys so much. I'm going to go ahead and sit you guys in the back because your winner by a final score of 3-2 is Austin Pez Howell, coming in with the big win, the win that he needed very much, I'm sure, for himself as much as for his record. Pez, I mean, the last time you got pushed to the blind round, unfortunately, it didn't go your way. This time it does, however. How are you feeling after that?
Yeah, no, I really needed this. I was, I like to think at this point I'm almost like the Rocky of the battleground in that I don't always win, but I scrap to the last round, and I sometimes win and I sometimes lose, but I put on a damn entertaining match, and I don't ever give up. So whether I'm coming in as the underdog, whether I'm coming in as the favorite, I do my best. I'm glad. Hey, Papa West did great. He had me on the ropes there. I had to fight back for that last round and then get the win in the blind. Hey, maybe I shouldn't prep because I seem to do pretty good when I'm not prepping that. In blind rounds and stuff, even though I lost that other one, I like to think I gave a great argument in that one too. Maybe I shouldn't prep. Maybe I should just come in, just spit my arguments right off the top of the head, and maybe I'll scrap it out. But it was a really good match. I'd like to think, Aaron, that win or lose, I think I bring out kind of the fire in people and really bring out those performances in people, because definitely you've seen it firsthand. I brought out the fire in Chad. I bring out the fire in Jacob Barber. I bring out the fire in Henry, the champion. So and I like to think that Jacob kind of starting out slow, and I kind of woke him up, made him fight, and like that makes for a good match.
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, you have some momentum to build on, and neither of you guys knew this going into this, but you won't have to wait very long to build on that momentum. So for people who are on the Facebook page are aware, when this whole thing relaunched last year, I allowed people to submit brackets predicting the very, very big tournament. And the people who won those bracket predictions, the reward that they got was they have the opportunity to produce their own battleground match. And both the winner and the loser of this match were selected by one of those people in 2 separate matches. So, Austin, your match will be produced by Madi or Raymond, and your next opponent will be someone who you may be familiar with, but I know for a fact one of our judges is familiar with, Mr. John Marr, who is currently only 1-0. However, he made a very confident debut, winning with a knockout, and kind of seemed to ease into his confidence a little bit. So it's the type of win where it could knock him down a peg, or it could build his confidence up should he beat you, but I think it would also help you out could you beat him. How do you know about John? What are your thoughts on that?
John, does. I know he does a show with Henry, so I am familiar with it. I don't think I got to see his match, but I'll obviously go back and look at it to study for this one, see what his tactics are. But I know he's very fact based. He knows his movies. Obviously, he's very good in trivia. I'm pretty sure he is. Like he's in a lot of trivia leagues and he kills it on trivia. So I mean, how that translates to a debate, I don't know. I'd like to think again that I'll bring out the best in people, and I try to give the most entertaining matches. So if anything, I think it'll be another scrapper, damn entertaining match, as you can probably attest to. I'd like to think I've had all banger of matches throughout my whole battleground career. So that's what I bring to the table and make it memorable.
Absolutely, man. Well, you can't say that you've ever brought a lack of trying, and tonight that trying does work out in your favor, sir. So I look forward to seeing you back sooner than later. It's certainly going to be an interesting matchup, but we will see you then as I send you to the back, sir. Congratulations on that win. And I bring in your opponent, a man who started out this battle looking like he might not make it to round 4, quite honestly. And it's not because of his abilities. It's just because his mind just didn't seem to be here. However, Papa, you took a 2-1 lead. It got pushed to the blind round. Unfortunately, it doesn't fall your way. But your performance is that of what we expect of someone of your caliber in terms of experience in the league. How are you feeling after that?
The fact that you thought that my no-care attitude meant I was just going to give up is ridiculous, Mr. Cannoli. I did Cannoli. That's what I said. It's exactly what I did with Tato. I can be the guy who wears a suit to every debate like I used to, and decide that, hey, it really doesn't matter what I do. It's based on what 3 guys say afterwards. And what is it worth it? Not the suit. Not the suit.
Well, fair enough, man. Maybe that was wrong with me to assume we wouldn't have a fight on our hands, but you certainly brought it. And as I said, it wasn't just the winner who was selected. The loser also of this match got selected to be put into a matchup that is being produced by another competitor. Your match will be produced by Chad Webb, and your opponent is going to be one JD Domash, who is currently 0-3. He is looking for a first win, or maybe he's looking for another loss because he entered last match with the probably second best couldn't give a fuck attitude, second only to yours. So how are you feeling about that matchup?
So he's a Papa wannabe. Great. Aaron, just going back to what you were saying about assuming. You know what happens when you assume? You make an ass out of you.
It's fucking clever. Okay. All right. Well, we're going to end that on that one because I don't think I could make and bring anything. That's all, folks. All right, Jacob, you're going to be out of here. Thank you, sir. And I do look forward to seeing you back in the very near future in that matchup against JD. Let's sip you to the back. And guys, that is it for another edition of Movie Battleground. Austin gets that win that I think deep down he wanted and he kind of needed, because as he said, and I would validate that, I think in win and in loss, he has certainly brought the skill. He has certainly pushed competitors, and he certainly put up a hell of a fight. It just 2 times in a row, it not going your way after those tough matches, it can weigh on you a little bit. So I think he needed the win, and I think he got it. Jacob, on the other hand, I think is a little more blasé. He certainly brought the fire tonight, and he brought some great points, and he earned his wins in those rounds. But I think he'll be a little more okay waiting a little bit for that win. Maybe it will come against JD. Maybe he'll have to wait another match. We shall see. With that said, though, thank you guys for watching. I want to say thank you to my 3 judges, Will Cohen, Chris Diaz, and Jonathan Peck. Thank you guys for being here and helping us out. If this is your first time watching, or if you're a returning viewer, subscribe. If you're not subscribed, like the video, drop a comment on your thoughts on this fight, and stick around for more Movie Battleground because we have stuff coming up every single week. With that said, though, my name is Aaron Canola, and on behalf of everyone here at Movie Battleground, we'll see you next time. Take care, everybody.